Bernama Radio 24 is moving beyond the Klang Valley and is now live in Johor on FM 107.5. Even if you're not in the Klang Valley and Johor, you can still access fast news and non-stop info via audio streaming at radio24.com.my.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of The Lounge right here on 812 Live, Bernama Radio 24. As promised, today we speak to Ivan Poon, the VP of Operations at Maxima, and we're going to delve a little bit into the fashion industry, find out what's trending, what's not, how the industry is doing economically, so on and so forth. Well, before that, just a short introduction. Ivan, a very good evening to you and welcome to the show.
Very good evening to you, Gerard.
I only now know that you're from Hong Kong, so
yes.
as someone from Hong Kong, what brought you to this neck of the woods?
Well, Malaysia is a very, very interesting place. Initially, I knew very little about Malaysia when I was in Hong Kong.
Right.
I went to school in Hong Kong and also UK, and then went back to Hong Kong again. And it was only when I met my wife in Canada that I knew a little bit more about Malaysia and the
Naturally, your wife is Malaysian.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes, she is. And I found it very interesting. I just came over to see and then to try it out a little bit, and here I am 15 years later.
15 years later.
Yes,
so you've been here for a good 15 years.
Yes, I have.
So you're more a Malaysian than anyone else now.
In a lot of ways.
Right.
I'm used to a lot of the customs and the know-hows and the inroads,
right.
so to speak. So and also driving habits, I must say.
Right. So fashion, how did you get into the industry?
Right, that's a very good question, Gerard, because I was actually very interested in fashion when I was growing up in Hong Kong, being
Hong Kong being a fashion hub.
Yes, definitely. And in the 80s, it was actually very much influenced by Japanese fashion, and also you get some influx, obviously, from UK,
right.
The European stuff.
Naturally, with the new wave and all that back then.
All the Juranis and the culture clubs of the world. I found it very interesting. I actually worked part-time for summer job, I think, in a boutique. So that was very intriguing, but I never knew that I would go into fashion eventually, many years down the road. When I got to Malaysia after my graduation in Canada, actually, I was working in a chemical company, doing industrial chemicals in Klang. So
you first came here doing industrial chemicals in Klang.
Yes, in business development, and I knew my friend from university days, and he opened up a fashion house, and he had been asking me to join him. I said no. I was a bit complacent at the time, so I thought, maybe chemicals was for me. So never wanted to change until I think 6 years ago, I found the calling. Maybe I thought, hey, give it a try, and then here I am now today.
Right, 6 years ago, you found your calling, which is to get into fashion.
Get back into fashion.
Sorry.
Yes.
And as you got in, did you come in as the VP then?
I was the general manager, so a lot of things to pick up. The Maxima Fashion is the company name, and a lot of things to learn because obviously the intuition was there for fashion, but the trade, certain things are different. Obviously, you're talking about a product that has a very short lifespan, whereas chemicals, it's just an ongoing flow, more for industrial use, that kind of thing. So it's a different industry, and the fast-paced industry actually suit me better.
Right. So Maxim is the company, the product is Maxima.
Correct.
Right. So with Maxim, do they only deal with one product, or are there different products involved?
There are actually many products. Namely, they started with a brand called Lian. Lian is a brand. It still exists. It is basically started off as a wholesale brand, and now it's more of a distributorship. They the company wanted to expand their market, and not just in a sense the B2B, more B2C, but within the realms of a B2B kind of a format.
Right.
So we started franchising, and you cannot have Leanne being franchised because it has been in a wholesale business mode.
So it started off as wholesale.
Right.
You can't franchise something that started off as wholesale
because the status quo was already there, and it was operating quite well.
Right.
So we started conceptualizing and engaging in a consultant, and in terms of the system development in getting a franchise system, which is very different from anything else. In terms of support, in terms of product development, in terms of the creation of a brand. That's in 4 years ago, we conceptualized Leanne Maxima and the identity of the brand, how it was to be different to what we had been doing before.
Right. Of course, when you come up with a brand or product, the name is very important because it carries the product a long way.
Correct.
So the name Leanne or Leanne Maxima, how did it come about?
Leanne is actually the name of one of the founders. Leanne actually preceded Maxim Fashion. Leanne actually herself opened up a boutique in Mainz shopping center back in 1997, and through the synergy of another two partners who are Brian and Francis, they conceptualized a new business model whereby there is money to be made in the fashion industry, and that's how Maxim Fashion came about in the year 2000.
And when you talk about fashion, there's always different demographics that you cater for or towards. So with Leanne Maxima, which is what is the target market or the demographics catered for?
The main target is the primary target is 25 to 35-year-old female, obviously. Very independent, very conscious of style. They know what they want. They are very confident in their persona. They are very confident in their work. The clothing is more trend setting rather than trend following. So it has a bit of a character to it. We have to be different from a lot of other brands who are already in the market. Some are from overseas, some are local, and to establish an identity which blends a bit of the Asian orientation towards with some European influences to create Leanne Maxima. So it's more metro, urban in orientation.
With a mix and match from different continents.
Yes,
so to speak.
Correct. But mainly, Asian. Where our persona, especially beginning, takes on a lot of Asian influences. Especially, Malaysian, Malaysia being the demographics that it has. That's how it was conceptualized.
Right. If you just join us on the show, we're currently speaking to Ivan Poon, the VP of Operations for Leanne Maxima, a product or a brand name owned by Maxim Fashion, and we're talking about Ivan in the industry, and there's a lot more to talk about within the industry. Before we take a short break for the top 5 news, when you first got back into fashion, was it hard getting in tune with the changing trends?
No, not really. I've been noticing. I've been on alert all this while. I've been following fashion, but not in an occupational
Right, you just read
sense.
about it. No, keep yourself in the know all the time.
But it was like get in, get on board, and go. Here we go, and it will. I never turned back since.
Right, and I mean, Maxim and also Leanne Maxima has grown, and we're going to talk about that growth in a short while. Having said that, the competition is tough within Asia. I mean, if you look at Hong Kong itself, the brands, the many brands that are out there, everyone, the competition is so tough that everyone has to come up with ideas, probably on a weekly basis, if not on a daily basis. Is that trend here in Kuala Lumpur now?
Yes, it is. And there is also, as we all know, there's a bit of a market downturn. There are competitions from other brands, but I think there's also a lot of competition due to the circumstances and the world that we live in right now, because it's in terms of technology, if you use it properly, it could be of advantage to you, but it could be also a bit detrimental to your cause if you don't know how to use it and you are not well equipped to adapt to the situation. There are more people who are, more resourceful. They have been empowered to know more, and they can source products and clothing from elsewhere, like for instance online.
Right. Going online now, that's where fashion is heading towards.
Right.
People can test their clothes online. Just lots of great ideas coming about. But what about us want to walk into physical stores? Will this trend still be around? We're going to come back and find out more about that in a short while. If you've just joined us on the show, we're currently speaking to Ivan Poon, the VP of Operations for Leah and Maxima, right here on A12 Live, Banama Radio 24. This is The Lounge. Good evening, KL. Good evening, JB, and welcome back to The Lounge. At The Lounge, we're currently speaking to Ivan Poon, the VP of Operations of Leah and Maxima. It is a big name in the fashion industry, and they're making their way up. They're climbing and inching their way up there, it being a tough competition, or it being very stiff for players within the fashion industry. Speaking of changing trends, you were talking a little bit about things changing more so on the internet or in the virtual world.
Right.
Tell us about what's happening there.
Well, as you may know, and some of our listeners may know, that there are many portals, some international ones, being present in the market right now, and they host many multiple brands in the hundreds, and they make fashion scene a slightly different venue or a channel now. Is that they can just use their mobile phones, consumers can use their mobile phones and access to information, the products, and they can purchase online through, if they're sitting on the train and then looking through the stuff, and then they can just make the purchases right there, rather than the traditional, let's say 10 years ago,
right,
you have to walk into a boutique and try everything out and then make your purchases. So the scene is actually very different in terms of travel. People can actually with the advent of low-cost airline, they can actually even go overseas to buy clothing rather than just stay here in Malaysia and wait for.
But having said what you've said, with the trend changing online,
right,
a lot of people now want to buy stuff online, but I've spoken to a few people who are online addicts, and they say, look, if I'm going to buy clothes, I need to try it out and look at it for a few minutes before I make up my mind.
Right.
And I think, or I believe that boutiques and stores are still relevant, still very much relevant. Your thoughts?
Well, they are definitely relevant, because there's nothing that beats going into a boutique and being served and then trying out clothing that really suits you, rather than have a wild guess and then you find that the product actually doesn't fit you, or it's too big, too small, and in real life it doesn't actually look that good compared to what is online, what they see online. So the industry itself has to the players like us, we really have to take care of the customers more in terms of the services and in terms of the perception that you are giving them some choices and some call and some variety, so that this empowerment that they have with this technology can be translated into walking into a boutique and having that empowerment at the same time. That doesn't mean that now Leah and Maxima sells 500 different types of clothing or 500 different brands of clothing, but it's a thought that maybe perhaps we could give them that empowerment, that kind of a choice, that perception. Perhaps a multi-brand kind of a facet, or a multi-brand kind of a concept store is the way to go. You are still having the branding exercise is still existing. Doesn't mean that you throw everything you know about branding out of the window, but we have to use that kind of a concept maybe more wisely and more smartly to strategize the way that we suit our consumers.
Well, to promote or to create an awareness, or to come up with an awareness campaign about your product, how do you do that? A lot of people do it by having small fashion shows, or or KL Fashion Week. They get in there. How does Leah and Maxima do it?
We actually engage in a lot of social media now. In fact, the traditional way is to do a lot of insertions in magazines. As you know, that the magazines, people can actually go online and find a lot of information. Yes, for
but you know, do magazines make a difference? You know, things have changed. Magazines, why people go online, you know, the magazines being sold at newsstands, but you know, the sales aren't very much. You don't get much of a distribution. So is that relevant?
The KPIs, you know, there's nothing to gauge really from magazines. I'm not saying that magazines are no good. If you have a multi-million-dollar budget, you can go for multiple magazines.
You go on a spending spree, and that's what most companies do.
But a lot of local companies like ourselves, we don't have that kind of a budget. So we, you know, for 4 years ago, we started until now, because we have limited resources, we have to spend wisely and strategically rather than simply because others are doing. Yes, there are certain things that you do because others are doing, you have to do it. Otherwise, you know, people perceive you as being, you know, why aren't you doing more A&P? Especially, we do have to cater to our franchisees who, you know, they invest in our company and in the brand. Of course, they also expect us to, you know, do a bit more, and we are doing that. But I think that what we are doing now is a bit more strategic in terms of our product, in terms of our A&P exercise being a bit more target market oriented rather than just simply okay, let's do an insertion because we have to. Right.
Well, no, this is not a trick question, but it was a question given to me by a friend, my sister, and she says, okay, year end is around the corner, Christmas is around the corner, and usually you have Raya sales, Christmas sales. It's really extravagant in Malaysia. Having said that, we've got many boutiques from overseas who are here within the city limits, and during the festivities, they usually come up with fantastic sales, and and these are big brands. So how do you fight these guys?
Of course, we do have to do our sales as well. It's actually it's not so much because they are also doing it, so we have to do it. It's actually the time of the year that we have to, you know, all guns blazing, and we have to start doing it. It's just the promotion part of it. We are trying to be a bit more direct in a bit more below the belt, so to speak, rather than just simply doing insertions, letting people know. I think directly rather than just generally. I place my ads in the magazine and hope for the best. So the KPIs can be measured rather than, you know, simply doing something without knowing the results. What is the sell through? What is the capacity ultimately?
But your job is also, I mean, it's quite tough on you because, you know, when you look at KPIs, you also have to look at setting up of stores, and when you set up stores, you need to know where you want to set up stores. Of course, it has to be strategically set up in shopping malls, which is close to the demographics, the 25, 35, the demographics that you're hitting or working towards. And is it tough to do in Kuala Lumpur?
It is tough because, of course, rental-wise, it's not as high as many other cities, let's say Hong Kong or even neighboring Singapore. But, you know, within the means, it's still very tough because it's actually franchisees investing in that money. So for the past few years, we haven't been opening in major shopping malls that much. Rather, we do open in business centers, more like shop lot kind of scenario, rather than, because we really want to build the brand in terms of the presence first, rather than just go all out and just simply take up the A malls, and then maybe strategically there are better alternatives out there in the market. You know, cost effectiveness is also the key for our franchisees as well. Right. And we are looking into, you know, just now I've been mentioning about branding, whether we just brand the Maxima, how do we give consumers more choice? We're launching a new kind of concept store whereby it's called LAM, and this very interesting concept is that we are trying to encompass Lian Maxima as well as Lian into this concept store, and we are developing other products, let's say slightly younger product called Love Blossom, which is basically caters to a lower in terms of age, in terms of demographics.
Right, you're looking at teenagers.
Maybe young adults, you know, from the 20 plus to 25-year-old. So that's what we call the perception of having choices. Yes, we are dealing with multiple brands. We have menswear coming up as well. The menswear is called MALE by LAM, male by LAM. What sets it different from the players currently in the market is that we use classic pieces or a classic influences with trendy overtones.
Right. And when you say classic influences with trendy overtones, for those of us who are not fashion savvy, what does that mean? What's a classic influence?
Let's say we work with a lot of jackets, we work with a lot of vests, which Malaysians generally don't wear a lot of. We're trying to change the playground, so to speak. It's a bit more metrosexual. It's very wearable to work. It's very wearable to after work activities. So that you're looking good, you're looking trendy, but without looking over the board.
Right.
And for men, it's actually very important because it's looking after yourself, the way that you look, and then having the right wardrobe for it without really spending way over your budget.
Right.
And the pricing strategy would be slightly lower than our competition. It's not so much as a pricing war, we beat them in price, but it's giving that option, the quality product that looks trendy and very fashionable without really spending a lot over what you need to spend.
Right. If you just joined us on the show, we're currently speaking to Ivan Poon, VP of Operations for Maxima. Is there a website dedicated to what you do?
Yes, we do. www.leannmaxima.com.
That's leannmaxima.com. LEANNMAXIMA. You'll get all the information you need. Coming back to competition, we're talking about competition here.
Right.
Now, as a VP, you have to travel abroad and look for great locations. Look to spread your business or spread your network. And do you travel the region a lot?
Mainly with Hong Kong and also China and the neighboring countries. It's funny because we do have
wait. Speaking of China, what are your chances of getting into China?
China, we're not looking in that market. Actually, there's some minor, smaller distributors there as well currently doing it. China has a very unique culture. Chinese brands, they tend to work in their own means and try to they do dominate a lot of their local market as well. So China market, it's a different ball game to a lot of let's say Asian market. Of course, they do look to the international brands, but they have very local brands for their very local taste. So it's certain let's say it's Shanghai, the bigger cities, there are potentials there, but I would say even menswear have a good chance of making it there because the market is huge. You don't look at the potentials. Whereby in terms of ladies wear, the competition is immense there, and they have a lot of local operators and local brands who are doing what we're doing here in Malaysia.
Right. And being in the fashion industry and seeing as to how the government has come up with a budget for 2013, I'm sure there's a lot of relief for those getting into industries like this because it's a very risky industry. If you look at it, you either make it or break it. There's no, maybe you make ends meet, but that's not what the fashion industry is. It's about moving up and up. Having said that, behind good fashion, there's a good designer, someone who designs the clothes and who works on this within the company.
Yes, we have a number of designers. We have a very strong designer his name is Elvin. He's been with us for quite a few years now, and our designers are all local. We don't source from anywhere else.
Designers are local, so it's safe to say, or suffice to say, that Maxima is a Malaysian brand.
Yes, correct. Very much so. With a very international outlook. That we try to, in a way, you can say that we try to punch about our weight a little bit in the sense that if you look at our latest catalog, you look at the fashion shoots, it's all done in-house, but I can say that the standard of the production is very international. You look at it, you probably don't even realize that we've done it locally.
Right. When we talk about great fashion, of course, it being comfortable is another thing altogether. And like you said, people are not the type of people. Malaysians are not the type of people who go out there and wear a coat, so on and so forth. Maybe it's because of the tropical heat. Is something being done about that within the fashion industry to make these suits and coats a bit more comfortable? Maybe think of a linen that doesn't linen that doesn't crush,
Yes.
lighter suits, so on and so forth.
That we work on a lot of fabrics, and in terms of designs, definitely we don't do a lot of trench coat overcoats that are too thick or not suitable for the local climate. But yet again, there are certain pieces that you can wear overseas during cooler seasons, maybe not North America minus 30 minus 40 kind of climate, but because the world is getting a little bit smaller, people travel a lot more, so the accessibility is not just within wearing something that that suits local climate. There are pieces that are a bit more, so to speak, wintry, suiting the season. That's why we do have fall holiday fashion, that it's a bit more year-end, it's a bit more festive, a bit more glam, and a bit more suitable for overseas climate as well.
Right. Having said that, looking at the fact sheet here, you have successfully ventured into the overseas market. You're in New Zealand, Singapore, Vietnam, and Mauritius, also in Australia. And I've been to Australia a couple of times. When you look at the fashion trend in Australia, especially within a place like Melbourne, people in the city and people who live in the suburbs outside the city all dress differently. There's a different dress or fashion sense, within one state. So, how does Leanne Maxima cater for a state like Melbourne within Australia?
Definitely, we are more present in terms of this distributorship and even online business, more for the metropolitan area. And our reach, we are hoping that we can also set up a point of sales, perhaps standalone stores and as well as counters, even in Australia. We're trying to work with some of the big chains there, trying to connect with them and see how we can work with the department stores there, because even if you look at the North American market, a majority of apparel sales is actually from department stores. It's very different from let's say Malaysia. The departmental store scene is slightly less vibrant relative to the industry. So the departmental store is actually a very good venue for us to venture inside, rather than straight ahead you try to sell franchises over there. But even to suit the market now, being more competitive and more value for our investors who are our franchisees, we are actually in the franchise system, we are consigning to the franchisees, rather than just because a new investor coming in, the risk on having products, investing the initial opening costs, everything is quite high. So we have devised a system whereby we incentivize them and give them consignments to start up the store, making it much easier for them to start up a project, rather than spending a lot more on just stocks, which may not move, and it helps us move the stocks, rotate the stocks within our own system as well.
Right. So within a place like Melbourne, you would locate yourself in places like Myers, in big stores, rather than look for franchise or so on and so forth.
Yes, because if you have to engage in with a, let's say, local master franchisor, they will really have to submit to us, as in any place in the world, their resources. What are the resources how are they going to develop that brand? There is a certain risk there that this party may not deliver the deliverables. So why not engage in the established network and resources like a department store that has the market already, has the network already. So it's just one more brand. Yes, there's no distinctiveness maybe initially that they have to educate their consumers, but as with any brand, that's the process anyway.
Right. We've got about 5 minutes left on the show, so there's still a lot to talk about. If you look at the Crusades, back in the day, the Crusades, swept through the world and killed a lot of people. Today, in this day and age, we still have a different kind of crusade, and it's fast food moving into Asia and killing a lot of people too. Having said that, we've got a lot of bigger sized people, especially women. And does your clothes cater for people like this?
Actually, well, as part of our strategy, we can tell it on air that our sizes are actually slightly bigger than a lot of our competitors. The way we do it is that, of course, we move into a market whereby the general public, general population is of a bigger bone structure, will do the right adjustment in terms of naming the sizes as well. So the sizes is only a very minor point, and our brand profile currently is that our sizes actually is a bit bigger than what is out there in the market right now. So we do cater to people who are of slightly heavy-set individuals, and we don't call
it's
it
great that we find all these euphemisms for people who eat too much.
We are very politically correct.
Yeah, right.
We don't call it XXXL. We just still call XL.
It's still called XL. Yeah, correct. Very on the down low. Having said that, before we sign off with this interview on fashion and Leanne Maxima, of course, you look at the trend of fashion now. I look at it. I was a boy of the 80s. I grew up in the 80s. My teenage years were in the 80s, and I look at fashion. It's just it's coming back. The 80s is coming back with the carrot. A year and a half ago, it was the skinny carrot for men, and now it's a skinny. It keeps moving, but it's really quick. What do you see happening in the next few years?
The recycling of certain elements will definitely be there. It has been happening for the last 100 years anyway. I've seen the 80s come back, come and go. When it was the 80s, now it's the 2010s. It has come back. I personally refuse to go back to the carrot cut. It's just not me.
It's not me too.
At this age,
high-waisted carrot cuts definitely a no for me.
Definitely, the trends will be reinventing themselves, and this is what fashion is all about: is reinventing something that happened before. You've seen the 30s come back. You've seen the 50s come back. You've seen 60s come back. There's a lot of influence of 60s. It's actually not net taking all the elements from the 80s. It's blending it with something current and blending it maybe from the different decades as well. So you will see the 70s definitely making a comeback soon. Maybe not the next 5 years. Hopefully not. I personally do not like that era in terms of fashion, but you've seen it about 10 years ago. The 70s actually came back with bell bottoms.
Fashion-wise, the 70s was a big mess.
Yes, it was. It was definitely. There were certain elements that prevailed and then came back and then left again. Thank God. But generally, I think
the one thing that came back for a while was the Ted Nugent collars.
Correct.
From the 70s.
I had that, and he had spiky hair from the 80s, and now it's the big hairdo from the 80s. So it comes back and go, and that's the way fashion works, and we have to be very ready for it. And IT is also in. You have smartphones, everyone can access to information. So it's being ready and being adaptive to the situation, but not become a slave and simply follow the trend.
Right. One last question for you, Ivan, before I let you go. For a lot of parents who have kids who are done with their O levels, they're moving into tertiary education. A lot of them who love arts want to get into fashion, and parents cringe when fashion. It's a very dangerous world. Go study, be a doctor, do something else. Your thoughts on creativity and allowing kids this creativity.
Go for it. You know why? I just spoke to a designer who recently joined us, and she was studying hotel management, and later after she worked, she found out she didn't like it, and then studied fashion, and now she's our designer. So there are lots of regrets in the world. I probably should have studied something from the art side, which I did not. So down the road, you will probably regret make certain decisions being made. Never mind. Go with your instincts. Fashion there's a lot of money to be made in fashion as well. So never think that it's just because you're a doctor, accountant, lawyer, that's where the sky is limited to.
Well, if you want to find out more about a Malaysian brand, very much Malaysian brand, Leanne Maxima by eMaxim Fashion, all you need to do is log on to www.leannemaxima.com.
Correct.
That's leannemaxima.com. You'll get all the information you need about this Malaysian born fashion, and it's now traveling the world over. It's gone to Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, Vietnam, Mauritius. Who knows? You'll see them in New York soon. Well, it was a pleasure speaking to you, Ivan. We hope to have you back in the studios again at some time, maybe before the Christmas holidays, to tell us a little bit about what's trending then.
Yes, thank you very much, Gerald.
Stay with us. Coming up shortly, we do have News 24 Extra. When we come back in the next hour, we'll bring you the United Nations News Bulletin right here on 812 Live, Banama Radio 24.